In 1521, Mahidevran was the most powerful woman in the Ottoman Empire. She was the mother of the crown prince and the Sultan's favorite. She ruled the Imperial Harem with absolute authority. 10 years later, she was forgotten, exiled. Erased from history, her son was dead. Her rival had won everything. This is the tragic story of the queen, who lost it all to a slave girl named. The Ottoman Empire in 1520 was the most powerful force on earth. It controlled 3 continents and dominated the known world. At its center was Sultan Suleiman, known as the Magnificent. By his side was Mahidevran Sultan. She was not just another concubine. She held the highest position a woman could achieve. In the empire, she was the Haseki Sultan, the Sultan's chief consort. Mahidevran had given Suleiman his first son, Prince in Ottoman tradition. The mother of the first son held immense power. She was virtually guaranteed to become the mother of the next sultan. For 10 years, Mahidevran lived in luxury and power. The harem girls bowed to her. The servants obeyed her every command. She was untouchable, or so she thought. Everything changed when a red-haired slave girl arrived at Topkapi Palace. Her name was Roxelana. Though the Ottomans called her Hurrem, she was captured in a raid on a Ukrainian village and sold into slavery. At first, Mahidevran barely noticed her. Roxelana was just another pretty face in a harem of 300 women. But Sultan Suleiman noticed her, and he could not look away. Within months, Roxelana became the Sultan's new favorite. She spent night after night in his chambers. Mahidevran watched in fury as her position began to slip away. The rivalry between them was instant and brutal. These were not just 2 women fighting over a man. This was a battle for survival, for power, for the future of the empire itself. Mahidevran had every advantage. She was the mother of the crown prince. She had been Suleiman's companion for over a decade. She understood the rules of the palace. She knew how to play the game. But Roxelana was different. She did not play by the rules. She broke them. In 1521, Roxelana gave birth to her first son, Mem. Then came Selim. Then Bayezid. Then she kept giving Suleiman sons, something Mahidevran had only done once. Ottoman traditions said that each concubine should only bear 1 son. This prevented rivalry and kept peace in the harem. But Roxelana ignored this tradition completely. Then Suleiman allowed it. The harem became a war zone. Mahidevran and Roxelana fought constantly, not with weapons but with words, with influence, with manipulation. Every dinner, every ceremony, every moment was a battle. Historical records describe one violent confrontation between them. Mahidevran allegedly attacked Roxelana, scratching her face so badly that she could not appear before the Sultan for days. When Suleiman discovered this, he was enraged. Roxelana used the incident perfectly. She refused to see the Sultan until Mahidevran was punished. She turned Suleiman's anger into a weapon against her rival. The punishment came swiftly. Mahidevran was stripped of her title as Haseki. She was moved to smaller apartments in the palace. Her allowance was reduced. Her power was crumbling. But the worst was yet to come. In 1534, Suleiman made a decision that shocked the entire empire. He sent Prince Mustafa away from the capital. The Crown Prince Mahidevran's son was assigned as governor of a distant province. Ottoman princes were always sent to govern provinces. This was normal, but timing matters. Mustafa was sent away, while Roxelana's sons remained in Istanbul, close to their father. Mahidevran had to make an impossible choice: stay in the palace and keep fighting Roxelana, or follow her son into exile. She chose her son. She left the capital, leaving Roxelana as the undisputed queen of the harem. It was exactly what Roxelana wanted. With Mahidevran gone, there was no one left to challenge her. She now controlled the Sultan completely. But Roxelana's ambitions went even further. In 1534, something unprecedented happened. The harem quarters in Topkapi Palace caught fire. It was a devastating blaze that destroyed much of the building. Some historians believe Roxelana arranged this fire herself. Why? Because it gave her the perfect excuse. After the fire, she convinced Suleiman to let the Harem women move into the main palace, right next to the Sultan's own chambers. For the first time in Ottoman history, the Harem was inside the seat of power. Roxelana could now influence every decision Suleiman made. She had access to ministers, to diplomats, to state secrets. And then in 1534 came the final shock. Sultan Suleiman married Roxelana in a legal Islamic ceremony. A sultan had not married anyone in over 600 years. It was unthinkable. It broke every tradition. But Suleiman did it anyway. The slave girl was now the legal wife of the sultan. She was the Haseki sultan, she was the empress. Everything that had once belonged to Mahidevran now belonged to, in Exiled, Mahidevran could do nothing but watch. She lived in Manisa with her son Mustafa, far from the palace, far from power. But she never stopped hoping her son was the crown prince. Surely one day he would become sultan. Prince Mustafa grew into a remarkable young man. He was tall, handsome, intelligent and brave. He was an excellent military commander and beloved by the Janissaries, the elite Ottoman soldiers. He was everything a sultan should be, but this made him dangerous. The more popular Mustafa became, the more Roxelana feared him. If Mustafa became sultan, the first thing he would do is execute Roxelana's sons. This was Ottoman law to prevent civil war. The new sultan killed all his brothers. Roxelana would never let that happen. She began a whisper campaign against. She planted seeds of doubt in Suleiman's mind. She suggested that Mustafa was too ambitious, that he was planning a rebellion, that he was a threat to his father. Year after year, the poison dripped into Suleiman's ears. And slowly, tragically, he began to believe it. In 1553, Sultan Suleiman summoned Prince Mustafa to his military camp. Mustafa came immediately, eager to see his father. He entered the Sultan's tent with no guards, showing complete trust and respect. Inside the tent, 7 mute executioners were waiting. On Suleiman's signal, they strangled Prince Mustafa with a boot. He was 38 years old, the crown prince, the people's favorite, the hope of the empire, was murdered by his own father. When Mahidevran heard the news, her world ended. Her son was dead. Her only son, the boy she had raised to be sultan. Everything she had lived for was gone. She lived for 8 more years after Mustafa's death. Alone and forgotten in exile, she never returned to Istanbul. She never saw the palace again. She died in 1581, a broken woman whose name had been erased from history. Meanwhile, Roxelana's sons thrived. When Suleiman died in 1566, it was Roxelana's son Selim who became. The dynasty continued through Roxelana's bloodline. Not today, most people know. There were television series about her, books, documentaries. She is remembered as one of the most powerful women in history, but she is forgotten. If she is mentioned at all, it is only as Roxelana's rival. The woman who once ruled the harem is now just a footnote in someone else's story. This is how power works. History is written by the victors, and Roxelana won everything. The irony is haunting. Mahidevran had every advantage at the start. She was there first. She had the crown prince. She had the sultan's love. She had the rules of the empire on her side. But Roxelana had something more powerful than all of that. She had ruthlessness. She had strategy. She had the willingness to break every rule to win. In the Ottoman Empire, only one woman could reign supreme. There was no room for 2 queens. And in this deadly game, Mahidevran lost everything. Some historians argue that Mahidevran was too traditional, too bound by the old rules. She played the game the way it had always been played. But Roxelana rewrote the rules entirely. Others say that Mahidevran's mistake was leaving the palace by following her son into exile. She gave up her only weapon against Roxelana. She surrendered the battlefield. Perhaps both are true, but what is certain is this. The moment Roxelana entered Topkapi Palace, Mahidevran's fate was sealed. It was only a matter of time. This is the forgotten story of Mahid, the first queen who was erased by the second, a cautionary tale about power, rivalry, and the brutal reality of the Ottoman harem. If you found this tragic story fascinating, subscribe to Imperial Secrets for more shocking tales from history's shadows. Next time we reveal the secret marriage that shocked an empire. For 600 years, hit the like button and let us know in the comments which historical figure we should cover next.